Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Charged Up. 14, maybe? I should really keep track
15.
of that better.
No, 14, because last week was unlucky number 13.
Yeah. Don't doubt me. I doubt myself enough. I don't need you doubting me too. Anyway, I am Justin, your host, as always, and I am joined solely by my co-host, the self-proclaimed Marvelous Iggy.
Pennywise did nothing wrong. He is the most trusting clown in the world.
I won't see it with you, and it's... whatever. We're moving on past that.
Fans of the show, get ready for an It watch-along at some point. Hopefully, maybe around, I don't know when, but soon. Justin won't be there because he's definitely scared of clowns.
That'd be a good Halloween one. Like, my bachelor party is the week... Or, well, school ending plus bachelor party. Like, kind of all that together is around the end of October. So there's probably going to be a few special episodes then. So
yeah. I do want to do a review of the new one that's coming out at the end of the beginning... a month from now, actually. Because for whatever reason, I wasn't looking forward to it. Now I'm really looking forward to it. From the last trailer, it's like I'm expecting a personal review for me when I see it the week after it comes out.
Well, watch the new one and then do the watch along with Thomas of the old one, and then you can compare the two back to back in the commentary.
Yes, I will do that.
That'll work. Cool. Anyway, now that we're done with our business chat, like I said, it's just us two this week. We had a last minute guest drop out, so I'm sorry about that. But we're just going to go through some quick topics and a little bit of news. There really wasn't a lot this week. So I say maybe this will be a short one, but the last time I said that, we went 2.5 hours. So we'll see.
Anytime Justin says it's a short one, it's usually going to mean, another 30 minutes. Okay.
Yeah.
It's like,
well, because it's like, we don't have as much to talk
joke.
about. So clearly we won't go as long, but then we just spend like an hour on each topic.
Yeah, for real quick before we move on, the longest, it's still a running joke with my dad, not so much now, but when we were younger, that when my dad said, okay, son, I'm going to pick you up at 4:30, and we'd always say, okay, 5:30, because he was always habitually somewhat late for whatever reason. Never on his own fault, just some things always just happen. Mm-hmm. It's just like, no, I'll be at 4:30. Okay, Dad, see you at 5:30, and usually we were right. So I just always find that funny.
Yeah, my mom's side of the family is like that. Anytime we get together for a holiday, it's like we tell them to show up an hour earlier than we expect them, so that they'll show up on time.
Nice.
It's been working. Although they still end up being late now because there's a lot of kids in that family. So, preparing a lot of kids to come over is not easy. But,
no, it's not.
Yeah.
It's not.
But let's start with your topic because I feel like it's actually like nerd related and mine's kind of not.
Yeah, I mean, yours is too, especially considering all things. But I wanted to sort of talk about the Antihero. And it's just something that's been bothering in my head for, I want to say, a couple months. That, I'm not saying that the Antihero is dead, because it's not, because there's still plenty out there. But, like, I feel like you're and mine's age group, Justin, we grew up at sort of the high point of Antiheroes, like the entire 1990s.
Yeah, the introduction of Deadpool.
Introduction of Deadpool, Wolverine's skyrocketing popularity, all types of movies and culture. Forgive me, but professional wrestling, it became more popular to be sort of, the one who fights against authority and not being entirely a good guy. And I just noticed that throughout, I want to say at least the last 10 years, that they still exist, but like they're either toned down really, really hard. Like even like, I'll use a comic example, Wolverine. Wolverine was the hardest of the hardest, the most anti-hero. When you think of an anti-hero, you think of him.
I don't actually.
You don't. Well, like having read X-Men comics back then, like he was the hardcore guy. He was the one that did things the other X-Men didn't do. But I would say over the last 5 to 10 years, like Wolverine has they've softened him in a way. And, to betterment of his character, he's not just the killer, he's a more well-rounded character. And then I look at other media, like, to instance, the new RoboCop movie. Or not RoboCop. Like, to me, they're just... Or, like, in professional wrestling. There's not a lot of people like that, like, say, who would be fighting against authority and, fighting not only just bad guys, but good guys as well. And I just find it interesting how not dead because it still exists, but how it's so there's not as many as there used to be. In video games, and comic books, and even in movies, you pretty much have, traditional straight-laced superheroes. They have a little bit more edge to them, but they're not nearly as, say, like an early '90s action hero, like say a Jean-Claude Van Damme or Sylvester Stallone, or even Arnold Schwarzenegger in certain films. It's nothing like that. I just find that really interesting.
Yeah. I wouldn't necessarily say there's not as many, like, anti-heroes anymore. I'd say it's more a case of, like, all of the kind of characters that were just black and white have taken on those shades of gray, because I feel like in a lot of cases, these characters, for one, they've been around for so long that now they're kind of starting to get those more interesting storylines. So, like, with Deadpool, for example, just because that's kind of the one I know of most. Like, I've followed literally his run from, like, 98 to, not current, but, like, probably 2008, 2010, somewhere in there. Pretty much, like, everything he's had in that time. And he started out literally just as, like, a mercenary, like a plot device, for the New Mutants, or X-Men in that case. And, he was pretty popular, so they brought him in for a little mini series, and, like, in that, he had his tragedy, the fact that, like, he had cancer and everything like that, but it was still pretty much just like I kill who I'm told to kill. That's what I do. Like, he wasn't overtly a villain, but he was kind of the definition of antihero. And in more recent years, he's taken on, like, the hero role by, like, kind of reluctantly going back and saving the day, or, like, being really, like, pompous and dickish about it, but, like, showing up to, like, completely just save the world when everyone else dies, or something. Or, like, when he screws it up and he's like, okay, I hurt this, I should probably fix it. Like, anti-heroes don't do that. They just, they're like, I'm gonna say the Punisher, but I know he has his kind of, his hero moments too, but they're more like the Punisher.
But I would say out of current media, I would say the Punisher's the only one who's really still that anti-hero, where he still kills people, and he's still, like, he takes the law in his own hands, and he's above what a vigilante would be.
Right, exactly, and he's probably the purest definition of anti-hero still.
He's based off of Dirty Harry.
He still has kind of his moments of, like, heroism. Even, like, if you look at, the not the best example, but Daredevil season 2, like, he comes back in the end and, like, helps them in that big battle against the Hand. Even after he, like, chained Daredevil to a roof. Like, that was pretty anti-hero-ish. But he still comes back and helps to save the day. And so, like, there are those examples of anti-heroes, but they're getting their shades of gray, because you can't just be one thing forever. So, like, a lot of the heroes, that are just solely heroes, even have their anti-hero moments, because, like, you need to kind of have those moments where they fail, or whatever the case is. Like, again, not the best example, but there was that whole Captain America arc lately where he, claimed to be Hydra. And
that's what's going on right now. He is, his memories are altered, that he believes he was fighting for not Nazi Germany, Hydra this entire time.
Right. But the point is, like, he's not a villain, even though he's a Hydra. He's just kind of more like, he's a different kind of hero. So, like, they took this, every man, like, well, not every man, but, like, the character everyone wants to be, and, like, even kind of turned him into an anti-hero now. And so, like, there's just a lot of, like, flipping sides and everything and all of this. Like, you can create a character that's an anti-hero. And if that's their status quo for a while, because they can stay in the supporting character field, like Wolverine did for years and years and years, that's all they are. But once they become, like, the spotlight, which is what's happening to Deadpool right now, you have to find something new to do with them. So that's when you add in those, like, moments of heroism, or, like, turn them into straight villains for a while, or, like, look at Venom. He's run the gamut as far as, like, a villain, hero, anti-hero, like, back to villain, like, so it's kind of just a plot device, honestly, whatever they need them to be. I wouldn't necessarily say there's less anti-heroes. I'd just say that some of the anti-heroes are becoming heroes, some of the heroes are becoming anti-heroes, some of the villains are becoming like, it's just kind of flip-flopping more. It's not so black and white.
Yeah, DC made a movie about anti-heroes last year in the Oscar award-winning Suicide Squad. Sorry, I had to.
I know.
Do you, let me ask you this. Do you think... Because I don't know kids today. I know they play Call of Duty. But, like, I mean, like, because we were kids who grew up in that era where, like, the cool characters were the one... Like, we're going to talk about Cable. Cable isn't an anti-hero, but he had that anti-hero look about him, and he was very much... At least his beginning days was very much anti-hero. He didn't play well with the X-Men. He was on his own, and he did whatever he could take to get his mission done. We grew up in that generation where that was what a quote-unquote hero looked like, where characters like, say, Superman or Captain America were considered obsolete. And I just find it really interesting that it's not really happening, but it's like, where it's the same way we're like, well, these characters don't matter, because Punisher is still relevant in today's society, even more so than he's ever been. And like, do you think that in pop culture today and audience today, do you think that kids want to be the anti-heroes, or do you think they just want to be Iron Man, who has his own share of demons? Which it doesn't make him an anti-hero, but he has his own problems that maybe people can relate with, versus just the gun-toting, I'm going to do whatever it takes to get the guy.
I think people relate to three-dimensional characters. It's not necessarily about being a hero or an anti-hero or, in some cases a villain, like the people that obsess over the Joker, for example. I think it's just they want a character to be more than just one thing. Like, a lot of people have myself included, really, have problems with Superman because, like, it's hard to relate to him. And again, this is all opinion. I'm not saying this is the fact. I'm just saying, like, this is how people feel. It's hard to relate to him because he's an alien. He's super powered. He can do, like, pretty much whatever he wants. He doesn't have the human qualities of, like, a street level character like, Daredevil or like even Batman, on the DC side. Like, yes, they give him human stories as far as, like, the Clark Kent side of things and, like, figuring out his powers and coming to terms with, like, his mortality if they pull away the sun or whatever the case is. They find ways to give him, like, humanized storylines and kind of give him those gray areas, like with the different kinds of kryptonite that can, make him change in some way and turn him into an anti-hero sometimes or whatever. Things like Bizarro Superman, where he has to come to terms with himself and see, his actions for how they affect the outsiders, like all that kind of stuff. But the fact is, like, there's these characters that are pretty much just good. Like, they exist to just be the hero. That's all people know. And then there's these characters that were literally built to be in that gray area. Like, they're, sometimes they're worse, sometimes they're better, but they solely exist in the gray area. They're not the Superman or the Joker who are just good or just evil. And I think you can tell a lot more compelling stories with those gray area characters, which is hard to say, by the way, because you have more to play with from the start. You don't have to create situations where it causes conflict. They just exist in that space already. So yeah, some people just like the Iron Man, which, in that case, like, he has his demons too. But I think a lot of people are...
In a bottle.
Yeah. I think a lot of people are more taken by these characters that are introduced from the start as flawed. And I think that's a lot of what was with Deadpool. Like, even in his first, 4-issue miniseries, they tackled his almost depression, and the fact that, like, he couldn't die, even though, like, his whole body hurt from the cancer and everything. Like, it was a really dark arc, and it was his first solo miniseries after that, 1-issue appearance in New Mutants. So I think a lot of people attached to that. Or, like, I know I'm going back to Deadpool because, like I said, that's the one I know the most about, probably, as far as, like, the extensive arc. But, there are other characters out there that have kind of been introduced in that same way. And I think a lot of new characters now are being, like, introduced from the start in that way. Because, honestly, like, I think audiences expect more now. Back in, like, the 40s and 50s, when a lot of these characters are first being created, it was just exciting to have them, Like...
Yeah, they were new, they were fresh, they had... The spectacle of seeing, say, Flash or Superman or Batman was enough, and they can just fight.
Yeah.
Fight the good fight, defeat the crooked banker and go home. Nowadays, you can't really do that, and that's why. Yeah, totally agree.
Yeah. So you get these things where, like, you know, you can take a character that's 70 years old, and it's like, well, crap, what can I do with him anymore? And you can, you know, sometimes you can take them and, like, turn them into someone new, like all the female versions of these characters now that are, you know, new characters, obviously, like Jane Foster is Thor, you know, I don't know how to say her name, but Ironheart, the new
Riri Williams.
Yeah, Riri. Okay, that's what it is. The Amadeus Cho Hulk, like, you know, it's the same superhero but new characters. You have new stories to tell from these new characters, and I think it's a chance for them to kind of do a reboot. Like, you know, you mentioned before about the MJ in Spider-Man Homecoming, which, again, I know it's been out for a few weeks, but I don't like to get too much into spoilers, like, just kind of suddenly. But, like, there is an MJ, and I made a big deal about, like, you know, that's not who that is, blah, blah, blah. And that they can create their own. And, like, there's that same situation in comics where, you know, if you take a character that has been around for 50, 60 years, whatever the case is, and just, like, change them suddenly, like, do a reboot, and they're, like, the same name and everything, but a totally different character. Like, Wally West, for example. That was a big deal when they turned Wally West from, like, a, you know, white ginger kid to a black guy. And what was that, the New 52 when they made that change?
Yeah, because when they rewrote the universe, well, the universe was rewritten by an unknown force. I won't say it for spoiler reasons, but because there's two Wally West out there right now.
Okay, so are they different characters, like just both named Wally West?
Yeah, they're different characters. Yeah, the Wally West of the New 52 is for that specific universe that was created for a very specific reason by a certain character, and the Wally West of old is now back from the previous universe.
Okay, that's not so bad then. But it's that same idea of, like, you know, you take a character with a well-known name and just completely change everything about them and reintroduce them. And it's like, that's not that character anymore. Like, why didn't you just make a new character? And so, like, I know I'm kind of getting off the point, but I think that's a lot of what people, like what appeals to people is when you bring in a totally new character that might have ties to a different character. Like, you know, Sam Wilson becoming Captain America, for example. And then it gives you a whole new avenue to tell new stories, or you just introduce a completely new character and have that be, like, a new Antihero. Like, there was news recently about, like, a new kind of villain for Deadpool, because apparently they claimed that he'd never had, his opposite before, which doesn't make any sense to me because he's had multiple. But yeah, some new character they introduced to be, like, the Joker to, like, Deadpool, essentially. And so that's a character where, you know, starts out as villain, but who knows where he could end up. There's been multiple things that have been, like, you know, foils to Deadpool and then, like, becomes love interest or his partner or whatever the case is. Agent X is an example. Like, Domino, who's going to be in the movie. Like, you know, he's always had, I think, a really rich gallery of, like, villains and side characters and things like that, which is kind of what happens from having a lead that is an anti-hero, because you're not telling a hero's story. Like, he's just as bad as a lot of the people he takes down, so you have to find interesting ways to talk about that, you know, creates that kind of light and dark dynamic as far as good and evil, where it's just like, but he's worse than me, so and that's way more interesting than just, like, you know, stop what you're doing, evildoer, I am here to save the day. So I think that's where a lot of it comes down, basically, is what I was trying to say.
No, I get you. I just feel like, and I'm not yearning for it. And again, I don't think they're dead. I just find it interesting how we're sort of shifting away from that sort of mindset, and maybe not less anti-heroes, but like you said, more just well-rounded characters. Mm-hmm. And even anti-heroes who just had one agenda are more rounded, like you said earlier about the Punisher, who is, you know, pretty much kill anybody who's bad, and then you get more about his family and his, you know, they've gone to story arcs about his PTSD, because he does have that, depending on what story you read. Mm-hmm. You know, and it's not just, nobody's a one-trick pony anymore. You can't be in today's society.
No, which why would you want to write something like that?
Well, I mean, you could, if the point was to, like, reflect on an era gone by under a certain writer, you could do it, because they've been done it before, where, like, it's a a reflection of days past, but done in a modern sense. You can still do stories like that, but then you have to, but the inner workings of the character still have to be nuanced. But you can still homage those stories from the 40s to the 60s.
True.
I mean, like I'm reading, a book from Dark Horse that's pretty much DC Silver Age, but with the modern trappings of a current day story.
Yeah, and that can be fun, just kind of like a nod to the past. But I like that more when it's like used in an interesting context. Like when the Marvel universe collapsed and like Battle World happened, and they had all of these like new takes on those classic things like Old Man Logan and stuff. And I'm not saying those were the best books, but it was that idea of like, taking something that and kind of doing something new with it and new context. Right,
that's always fun.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, you should read Black Hammer by published by Dark Horse Comics. That's the one I was referring to.
I don't know what that
You'll
is.
really like it. It's a good take on superheroes. That's what it is.
Okay. What does Dark Horse even own?
Hellboy. They publish all the Alien books.
Okay.
They do a lot of indie creator-owned stuff, which is what I read primarily from them. So
because I think they used to have Star Wars, right, before Disney acquired them.
They had the Star Wars license for I want to say 20 years, and then Marvel bought Disney, and it was only a matter of time.
That.
Disney bought Lucas, and it was only a matter of time before Marvel was going to publish their own.
Yeah.
But yeah, they
because I knew that was like their big contract, and then they lost it. I wasn't sure what else they had.
Yeah, no, they're still healthy. I mean, they still got Hellboy. Again, if you want an Alien or Predator comic, go to them. I think they publish Godzilla too. No, they don't publish Godzilla. That's IDW. But no, they still got some stuff. They're just, that Star Wars was a hit for them. Mm-hmm. was a beauty loss, but hey, it's whatever. They're still trucking along. Yeah.
One reason that anti-heroes are not necessarily more popular, but kind of like less noticeable now, because I think they're just, every character in some ways an anti-hero. That's what I mean. Like they're more common, but you don't really think about it as much. Is because of the reverse examples. Like I kind of mentioned all the good people, but like take a character like the Joker. He's pretty much just evil, like just evil to be evil. And they've never really, like, they've had some really good Joker arcs over the years, but they've never really like changed him in any way past that. There's been like some depth with his like relationship with Harley and stuff like that, which is just toxic, so that doesn't really help. But there's still that element of like, he does have like some good toward certain people, but then he still like abuses them, and like it's just everything that they've tried to do to give him depth just makes him honestly more of a villain. And you always hear about people saying like, oh, don't give the Joker an origin story, like don't let us know who he is, his whole point is that he's an enigma. And like I think we've gotten to the point where that hurts the character, because there's no real more depth to him than just that. And I love the Joker. Like, that's from someone that, like, pretty much only reads Batman comics when there's a Joker arc. Because I find him the most interesting villain, like, probably of any villain. And, as far as villains go, he's great. But he's pretty much a one-trick pony of just, like, being this foil.
Yeah, but I will say with the Joker, and this is a line from The Killing Joke, if I'm going to have a backstory, I prefer to have multiple choice, which has led many writers to basically reinvent him. So while the cliche of the Joker is still the same, like if you like, I'll point to several different writers. One of my favorite Batman runs is run by a writer known as Grant Morrison. When he first made the Joker, it's your classic sort of Bruce Timm, Joker that we all know, right? Mr. J, that Joker. But then when you meet him like 50 issues down the line, I think it's maybe not that long, but approximate. Like he's this different haircut, more psychotic, just like he has different personalities depending on what the writer has, and because he's like that's just how he is. Like he'll change. Like there was a point where he cut his own face off.
Yeah, I know. I love that one.
Just because he could, and because like he just loves to change things up. So I know we're going slightly off topic, but like the Joker does have an origin, and it's the origin you choose to be, because he like I said, he says like I prefer to have multiple choice. I don't even know what it is anymore because I'm just so crazy. I don't think he's a character that needs an origin that because of how he's been written over 30 years since Killing Joke, they can just reinvent him whatever, and they can just say, well, it's just how he's wanting. This is just how he wants to be right now.
Right, and the origin thing was just kind of an example. Like, I was just basically saying that, like, because he really hasn't, like, changed over time, he's just kind of stayed, like, the psychotic, like, multiple personality guy. He's just a villain. Like, that's all he'll ever be. He's not really a fleshed out character, even though he's great. And there are dimensions to him, but you can never really get attached to that. You know what I mean? He just basically exists to be a foil.
Right. And I don't think you're supposed to get attached to characters like that. I mean, I think it's a lot of it has to do with, specifically on the Joker, is the fact he's been around for so long. A lot of it has to do with that. If you try to create a character like that now, I don't think you get away with it. But I think because you have the nostalgia and the history that many people, generations have had with the Joker, you can just keep doing the same thing, and that's what people are gonna love about it.
Yeah, and that makes sense.
Similar with the Punisher. Like, he's been around since the 70s. You can get away with him just putting out a comic book where he just kills gangsters, and Punisher fans would still love it because that's what they've come to love. Versus you and like somebody from Image, a new writer, new artist, never even heard of, and they introduce to you this vigilante who kills. Like, they want more because they expect more. Versus these other characters, it's nice to expect more, but it's not necessarily, if they don't get it, as long as they get their, touching the bases, if I'm using a sports metaphor for a moment, that's fine with them. And I know I'm like that with certain characters. Like, just give me this and I'll be fine.
Yeah, and again, I'm not knocking the Joker in any way. He's a great villain. But I'm just saying, like, I think like you said, if you made a character like that today, it wouldn't work. And I think that's, again, why the Antihero works so well now. Because, like, you don't think about it. It's just a well-defined character that you never really know, if they're solely good or solely bad. So it's not so much that there's less anti-heroes. It's just that, pretty much every character now is more well-defined. So those examples like the Joker that aren't as well-defined, or... well, he's well-defined as a villain, but you know what I mean? Like, well-developed, I guess, stand out more as just like, okay, that's just who he is. Like, I get that, and I'll take that, but I'm not going to get anything else from it.
Correctamundo.
That kind of thing. Whereas all these other characters, like, they're not anti-heroes, but they're not really heroes, they're not really villains. They just kind of are there, like, kind of towing the line between the two, sometimes.
I get you, yeah.
And that's fun. I think you can have more fun with that.
Yeah. If you're, let us know. What do you guys think about this? Who's your favorite anti-hero? Do you have one? Do you hate anti-heroes? Because I know there's some people who won't read books. They won't ever read the Punisher because of who he is and what he does. I know people like that.
That's so weird to me. Because, like, I kind of like that. I like the characters that do bad things for the right reasons.
Yeah, Punisher's one of my favorite characters. And no, I'm not a gun-toting idiot just because I live in Texas. I just think his personal messed up psyche combined with what he does is super interesting, and he's basically a psychopath.
Yeah. And
I find that interesting.
And honestly, it's probably going to sound bad to say, but there's some interesting similarities between, like, him and the Joker, for example. Like,
oh yeah,
both of them don't really care about, like, what people... like, how people perceive them. They just are what they are. Like, they're not ashamed of that, Like, Joker's obviously more kind of insane and unhinged about it. But, like, that's kind of the example I'm giving. Is, like, Joker is just evil. Like, Punisher, he does similar things. Like, he just goes around, like, killing people without remorse. Like, not quite making a game of it. But they showed in the Punisher teaser, the show teaser that they showed at Comic-Con that obviously hasn't gone public. They showed him, like, watching a guy through, like, the sniper scope, like, from really far away, and suddenly he gets like the guy he's watching is shot, and they zoom out, like, from the guy, like, probably 5 or 6 buildings over to, like, across town where the Punisher was shooting from. And it's like, it's a game to him. Like, it's nothing. It's not even hard. So, like, he didn't need to be that far away, but he was, because it was fun, probably. And so there's similarities there, but like Punisher has those hero moments, like that anti-hero mentality. And I find that infinitely more interesting.
Yeah, like he doesn't kill cops. He doesn't kill clean cops unless they're crooked, then he'll kill them.
Right.
But like he doesn't go out of his way to kill cops. Like if the cops are chasing him, he won't do anything to them. He definitely won't kill kids because he has that trauma with his family doing. And also he idolizes Captain America,
which is really cool.
Yeah, he's the ultimate soldier, and Frank Castle was a soldier in Vietnam,
Mm-hmm.
the Gulf War. Depending on what Marvel continuity you're looking at, that's. If Captain America confronts him, Punisher usually falls in line with him.
Mm-hmm.
Usually,
yeah, and one of my favorite things that I remember from Punisher, as far as being a hero moment, that kind of proves that he does have a heart and a conscience and everything, is slight spoilers for a 7-year-old thing, I think. At the end of Peter Parker's Ultimate Spider-Man run, he's being beat up by Green Goblin, this is his whole thing, and Punisher is there trying to take out Green Goblin, and kind of inadvertently save Peter, and Peter gets killed by Green Goblin, and the Punisher can't stop it, and it's kind of a traumatic moment that I actually really enjoy, because it you can tell it gets to him even though it was just a job for him. So yeah, I find those moments more interesting when you're just I'm just here because I was told to be here, I was paid to do this job. But then, it still bothers them because they're human. Whereas, Joker just does whatever he wants because he doesn't even have to be paid. He doesn't care. He's just a monster.
One big one we neglected is Deathstroke. Deathstroke's pretty much like an antihero now. Which is crazy, considering if you only watch the show Arrow, or, if you've read any comics prior to his current series, he's a villain, but, he's definitely more antihero now than he's ever been, which is interesting.
I mean, even on Arrow, the season finale was really cool because, they really played with that idea of, Arrow, Oliver, let him out, and, kind of, he had that moment of, if you help me, you live, basically. And so they play this whole time of, yeah, I'm your partner, but then, they tease and, oh, no, you betrayed him.
Double cross.
Yeah. And then it's he double crossed the double cross. And
you betrayed me.
So the whole episode plays with that idea of we know him only as a villain that hates Oliver. But they've made this whole thing of everyone else only knows him as a villain that hates Oliver. So they can use that to their advantage. And who knows, this season seems like he's going to be out. There's going to be that rivalry's going to be back. But more the Flash rogues rather than just a villain. And again, the Rogues are another good example. I find them fascinating because, sometimes they team up with Flash to take out bigger people. Sometimes he's stopping them, but, he lets them go, and, that's so cool to me. Villains that aren't always villains. I love that. And so I do agree that I wish we'd have more, overt anti-heroes, but I think it's just kind of bled into every other story more. So we're getting that stuff more often, just with the regular heroes instead of, specific anti-heroes as characters.
I think that's enough on that topic.
Yeah.
I think an interesting discussion.
True. It was. Yes, so moving on. My topic's actually just about healthy eating. I've been trying to be better at that lately, and I know that, it's a big nerd culture out there. I get that. But this does kind of tie into that because, when you're, especially I work in an office job, I come home and, mostly either edit videos or, talk to you guys sitting here at my chair. It's a very sedentary lifestyle. So it's kind of hard to be healthy. And that's a problem that a lot of us have. And our culture really doesn't help it at all. It's really easy just to go out there and get a dollar burger at McDonald's and take that home for your dinner. Unhealthy food is really cheap. Mostly because it's completely fake. There's nothing nutritional in it. There's even things that say, if something's branded healthy choice or whatever, it's not. It's the entire opposite of that. So there's this whole market out there of basically selling health to people that don't look up what they're eating, if that makes sense. So I just kind of wanted to go into that as a broad topic, because I have been working on figuring out like what works as far as like healthy eating, trying to exercise more, things like that. But my big complaint here is like the health food industry as a whole. Because you can look at things like the like protein bars as an example. You know, they sound like they should be good for you because they're protein. But while they're like chocked full with like usually like 9 to 10 grams of protein per like, you know, tiny little bar, they also have like a bunch of sugar and like sodium and MSG a lot of times, like just all this like bad crap that completely negates what the protein should do, because it's essentially an energy source, like a natural energy source, but your body is too busy breaking down all that sugar that it's not really using the protein for anything. And I know like I'm being very kind of generic here, like it obviously is more complicated than that, so don't like complain to me like you don't know what you're talking about, because I'm just trying to make it easy to understand. It's not totally accurate. But the point is, like, your body's going to break down all the sugar first. So all this stuff is, like, chocked full of, you know, preservatives and things like that to keep it on the shelf. And anything that has a long shelf life is not good for you. Just blanket statement. It's not. If something can last that long and stay fresh, it's been, like, chemically modified to crap. And it's upsetting because there's, like I said, there's a whole market out there for these things that claim to be healthy, like frozen dinners that are, you know, like meat and veggies, and they're not terrible for you. Like there's much worse things you can eat. Like I said, if you go to McDonald's for every meal, like it's gonna majorly affect you more so than like eating a, you know, healthy choice frozen dinner or something every night. But those things are still so full of other stuff that like the minor nutrients you're getting are being offset by all the bad stuff. But it looks like, you know, healthy eating on the cheap, so people do it. And I get that. Like, it's not easy to, like, make fresh meals every day, you know, on a limited budget. That's why a good portion of at least America is overweight. It's, like, our fast-paced, you know, like, underpaid lifestyles just don't facilitate healthy eating. But there's... I'm learning it's not super hard to do. It just takes a little bit of like education and prep. Because basically, like, all you really need to worry about is meat and vegetables. Like, it sounds really simple, and it's not as simple as it sounds. But also, like, everything else is processed. If you look at even like bread, you know, there's that joke in Scott Pilgrim. It's like, bread makes you fat? Yes, bread makes you fat. And it's sad because bread is so good. But yeah, like even things like, you know, people choose wheat over white. Doesn't matter. Usually that
you're still gonna get fat.
Right. Usually that grain they use, like if it's all like whole grain wheat or something, that grain is so processed that it's not even like what the original ingredient should be.
Yet it's still considered the quote unquote healthier option. I know because my dad bought only wheat bread for years.
Yeah. And sometimes there's even like there's more sugar content in it. Not really sure why, but there's like a gram or two difference between like wheat and white half the time. I've been looking more at that stuff.
Buy white bread.
Yeah, might as well. There's really no difference. And like obviously you have to have more than just meat and veggies, but like everything else is such in such moderation that I'm saying like the main focus, like as far as eating healthy, is just meat and veggies. And for the longest time, like there was this whole thing going around like, you know, don't eat red meat, like it's so bad for you, like eat lean cuts of meat, blah blah blah. And that's where the issue comes in. Like that's kind of my big topic here. I'm kind of dancing around a lot of things right now because it's been a lot of research on my side, but the main problem is depending on where you go on the internet, you're going to find entirely different stuff about what's healthy. You could go to one site and see that like potatoes are good for you. You could go to another site that says avoid potatoes, they're full of starch and carbs. Like completely, like both are technically true because potatoes can be good for you depending on your diet. But if you're trying to do like, you know, for example, a kind of a traditional like modern diet is high fat, moderate protein, low carb. And so then basically you're just focusing on like, you know, fatty cuts of meat and like green leafy vegetables. That's most of your intake. So you're getting, high fat, like protein from the meat, and then your veggies for various like kind of chemical balances, like your vitamins, your calcium, that kind of stuff, which again, some of that can come from a little bit of dairy and stuff too. Again, all of that in moderation, but the main things you're trying to avoid are sugar and carbs. That's kind of the basics there. So you can do things like eat a sandwich with a lettuce wrap, which I haven't tried yet. It doesn't sound great, but you can do it. And it's really not that hard to do. Like, if you just do, steaks instead of burgers on a bun, great. You can still barbecue every night and, be healthy about it. You can't put, a bunch of barbecue sauce and stuff on there because, again, sugar, high fructose corn syrup, all that stuff is bad. But, you can season it. Like, you can, do some really good stuff with your meat. Yeah, you can do some really good stuff with your meat. That's what I said. And it, comes out great. And, you do a side of a little bit of, cottage cheese or something, like full fat cottage cheese, or a basic salad, with an oil based, dressing instead of low fat ranch or something. 'Cause that's another thing. I know I'm jumping all over the place, but it will all tie in. Anything that says low fat, low sugar, whatever, when it pulls something out of it, you can guarantee whatever it's replacing with it is way worse for you. Always do the full fat or full whatever version of things. The only exception is if you can find something that's zero sugar, which most of those things you probably don't want to eat anyway because it's candy or soda or something like that. But if you can find something that says zero sugar, and the replacement is a natural substance like honey or stevia or something like that, that's fine. But most of those other things, if it's no sugar, they replaced it with high fructose corn syrup, which technically is not sugar, but it's way worse. Things like that. It is. Or it's just twice as much sodium for some reason. So yeah, it's really important to do good fats, which again you can get from meat. You guys have been making fun of me for my grass-fed butter. It's how do they feed the grass to the butter? But it's the cow was grass-fed. They got the butter from that, so it's better because it doesn't have all the toxins of the, what is it? Probably corn-fed cows. I don't even know. I don't really pay attention. I just buy it. And so yes, you're still getting the dairy intake, but it's it's healthy fats. Doing like I said, better oils. The main two you'd probably want to focus on are coconut oil or olive oil, which again is a small change. You can cook with both of those, and it's still oil. They're all pretty much the same. It's just kind of different taste, if it adds a taste to it. But it doesn't have all the gross stuff that vegetable oil, canola oil, those are way worse for you. So I got this big thing of I think it's cold pressed olive oil. Something about that is different. I don't really know what, but yeah, I cook everything with oil. That people used to say that's bad. Don't cook anything with oil, use water or whatever. But if you're using good, proper fat oil, that's great. But anyway, the point in all this is that our bodies have kind of been trained over the years to digest sugar, because that's our main intake. That's what's in a lot of these processed foods. It's just mass amounts of sugar for flavor. Because they'll pull a bunch of things out of it. They'll genetically, I keep saying genetically, they'll chemically process the meat together. So they pull all the gross parts of meat, grind it all down, and then form that into a hot dog or a hamburger patty or something like that. And because there's no good actual nutritional value there, they've stripped all the stuff that's meat out of it, they have to kind of add the flavor back in. So they do meat flavoring and sugar to make it pop more, so you actually get a full flavor out of it and everything like that. And all that's garbage. Eat real meat, just actual cuts of meat, or you get some ground beef and make your own patties or something like that if you're wanting to do hamburgers. Avoid the processed meats chicken nuggets, hot dogs. that kind of stuff. There's value in there every now and then. Like, you can cheat. It's fine. I had mozzarella sticks tonight because they sounded delicious and I wanted to get rid of them.
Yum.
But I also had, like, a good cut of steak. Yes, I ate mozzarella sticks and steak. Don't judge me. But, yeah, like, there's ways to just kind of minimize the fault. You can have a sandwich every now and then. That's fine. They say, like, what I've been reading, again, all of it varies depending on where you go. Take this with a grain of salt, metaphorically speaking. But kind of the general consensus of what I've been reading is when you're doing kind of like a high-fat, low-carb thing, you want to kind of like reset your body every 7 days or so. Because basically what it does is it shifts your body from processing that sugar, which makes all the fat kind of like settle in your body because it's not processing that, to processing the fat because there's no sugar to digest. So that's how our bodies are supposed to be. They're supposed to be trained to process fat. So it doesn't, just hang on you like it does on me. But because we eat so much sugar, the I think it's the liver or kidney, one of those, is kind of, it takes priority and processes that sugar instead. So like all of the work your body is doing, like the calories being burned, are burning sugar instead of fat. So it's really a simple idea, to cut out the things that are keeping your body from processing fat. But like if your body gets too good at that, I guess technically, it's going to burn less fat per calorie, because the efficiencies build up. So you have like one day of just like, eating a pizza or something. And it's like, oh no, what did you do to me? And then, for the next week or so, you're good to go back to that because it's like, it throws it off. It's not sure what to do anymore. So like, I'm not saying that, to change your life, because you can't do a diet. Like, diets don't work. You're just going to lose the weight. You're going to go back to how you were doing and then, blow it up again because your body is confused. It's going to store everything. You have to do lifestyle changes, which is what I'm trying to do and trying to share. I don't want to be one of those guys that just like, everyone should be healthy. Like, whatever, take whatever you want out of this. I just kind of wanted to share because I've been learning a lot, and what's the point of, digesting information if you don't share it with people that might want to know? Who knows? If not, you probably already skipped this or stopped listening. So whatever, no loss. But the point is, like, I'm not saying to just like completely change the way you eat forever. You can have a pizza every now and then. You can have a sandwich every now and then. You can have, like a bowl of ice cream. But just not constantly. Like a few weeks ago, I had kind of like a goodbye celebration with Taco Bell, because that was always my vice. So it's like, I'm going to have one last day of Taco Bell. Just like, get it all out of my system. So I went there, I got way too much food. I came home, I ate it, and I felt miserable. I hadn't had like any fast food in probably a few weeks. I've been like, exercising more, I've been starting to eat better. Not quite there yet, but, learning. And that was just like complete garbage food. I had no energy to work out. Like it was terrible. So like once your body acclimates, like you'll want to do it. It's just like drastic diets where it's like, they have all these ideas like you can only eat potatoes for 30 days. Okay. What do you do after that? So like small changes, like I love meat. So I love that I can still cook steak or, like have a hamburger. If I just like, I could probably do that on a lettuce wrap too. Pickles, like mayonnaise actually isn't bad for you if you get like actual mayonnaise and not Miracle Whip. So, do like a little bit of barbecue sauce just because, again, a little bit isn't bad for you. Mayonnaise, lettuce, no bun, still a hamburger. You can do like some cheeses, like usually really soft cheeses like mozzarella or really hard cheeses like cheddar are actually, usually like they're good fats for you again. So as long as it's not the fake processed stuff like American cheese or sadly my favorite pepper jack, which will take some getting used to, but I can do it. Like those are fine. And like full fat creams, like if you do milk, do whole milk. Heavy cream is actually a good substitute for a lot of things. Like I was talking about my vice is pizza. So I was saying possibly sometime this weekend I would make like a homemade pizza. That's I'm gonna get really like healthy and nitty gritty here and sound super pompous, but I was gonna make a cauliflower crust pizza.
Oh, look at you!
I know, right? Look at whatever. Just move on. No, a cauliflower crust pizza with homemade Alfredo sauce made basically out of like the grass-fed butter, heavy cream, a little bit of garlic. Just kind of mix all that together for the sauce. And then do like mozzarella cheese and like chicken and spinach on top.
Can you stop making me hungry, please?
Right, like that sounds delicious, right? And like that's like a totally legit like healthy pizza. It's gonna be a lot of work, I'm sure. I've never done cauliflower crust before, but like the ingredients are all there. You've got your crust; it's just not grain based. You've got your sauce, which a lot of people do Alfredo pizzas anyway. They just usually use like really crappy processed, store sauce or something. You got your cheese, you got your toppings. Like, it's possible to do. It's just a lot more work, and in some cases a lot more money. Recently, like every weekend, we've been going to the store to get various ingredients, like some kind of meat, various veggies, kind of basic things like that. And I'll just make like a big pot of whatever I want for that week. Like this week, it was like kind of a chicken and veggie soup. So I toss all that in the pot, just literally like meat, veggies, and some seasoning. So I know exactly what's going into it. It's nothing, nothing I don't want. And then I put that in Tupperware for the whole week of work lunches. And then for dinner, I come home and like either, do leftovers of stuff from the weekend. Like this week, I barbecued last weekend, so I've been eating pork steak all week, which, there's worse things to have left over. Or like make some kind of quick healthy thing, like a chicken wrap or something relatively small, but still good for you. And it's actually been really convenient because like I don't have to think about what I'm gonna make for lunch in the morning. I have more time to like do my wake up. I make my coffee. I sit down, scroll through random stuff on my phone, respond to notifications, whatever. And then like a minute before leaving, I just grab the Tupperware out of the fridge, throw it in my lunchbox, and head out the door. Like no problem. Before it was like I'd have to. I mean, before I was eating a lot of frozen stuff, so it was like grab a Hot Pocket, put some ramen, like grabbing multiple things from different places, and like making sure I have all the like utensils and stuff I need. No, just grab one thing, put it in there, and I'm good. It's a little more time out of my day on Sunday, but also like that's kind of the perk of just like throwing everything in a pot is like I cut it all up, which takes a little bit of time, put it in there, set the heat, and then go do whatever I want for an hour or so, come back, stir it a few times, go back, wait for it to cool, put it in Tupperware, and it's done. Like, it's not a lot of time out of my day, and it's a major change. Like I said, I was eating Hot Pockets and ramen for pretty much every meal, and that's awful. And I mentioned last week, like, I was working grocery store stuff for a while, and, like, just eating whatever was there. And it was usually that kind of processed, like, the healthy choice meals and stuff like that. Or like stuff out of the deli, which was also bad. And that made a huge difference. People say I hide my weight well, but I gained like 30 pounds in 4 months, maybe like 4 to 6 months. It wasn't good. So I'm trying to kind of get all that off before the wedding. That's why I'm being so like pretentious about all this. Is like, I was feeling like my body was aching. I'm 28 and I felt like twice that age. So just like the small changes I've made, I have like infinite more energy. I don't feel nearly as tired. Honestly, I've had trouble sleeping because I'm still awake when I go to bed. I wake up groggy because like I said, I'm not sleeping well, but that's because I guess I have too much energy. I don't know. And like I'm pretty focused throughout the day, whereas before, like by 10 o'clock or so, I'd be falling asleep. And especially like after lunch, there's kind of that that quick drop off, that like
lethargic feeling.
Yeah, that like 1 or 2 p.m. just nappy feeling, and I don't have that anymore. Like I feel like everything I'm eating is like kind of benefiting me rather than like slowing me down. And there's something to be said for that. Like I wouldn't talk about it if it wasn't important, I think. But the big issue here, and like, you know, the thing I think you might have some input on, possibly, I've been dominating this entire conversation, is the amount of information on the internet, and like this kind of, you know, this how they're marketing health food as a thing, so people think they're getting healthy when they're not. You know what I mean? Like the Atkins bars that are 90% sugar, but, you know, are supposedly good for that Atkins diet, whatever that is. And like the like I said, the frozen dinners that claim to be healthy, and they're really just healthier. Or like McDonald's, for example, is starting to do like a menu of like artisan sandwiches that are supposed to be better for you. And like the fresco menu at Taco Bell, and it's like, it's this illusion of health with still garbage, low quality ingredients. And it taints the whole idea of people getting healthier, because they think these small changes they're doing are making a difference. Or diet sodas, which are like the worst thing you can put into your body, aside from probably cocaine. But the research is still out on that. But yeah, I just kind of wanted to know your take, because I'm not knocking your life or anything. I know, like, you know, with working at Walmart, like, it was the same way for me. You probably eat more fast food than you're proud of. And it's hard to, you know, make proper meals because it's a hectic schedule. I was in the same boat. I know how it was.
No, I mean, even before Walmart, I still eat like shit.
Oh, well.
Like, it's not just a Walmart thing. I mean, granted, it has been better since Walmart, you know, since I started working there, but it's just like, it is what it is. There was a point in my life where, like, football, when I was still in football, and a little bit after when I was out of high school and in college, where I was like actively running, and I had time to do it. Like, I would say about 10 years ago, I was in the best physical shape of my life. Like, and you're right. Like, a lot of the reasons why I don't do it is because, like, it's money. Mm-hmm. Like, a lot of it's just like, I don't have, I get home, like, and especially for me, like, I take the bus everywhere, right? So it takes a while for me to get anywhere from point A to point B, and I've settled with that fact. But, like, if I'm running errands and I come home, just like, I really don't want to fucking spend another hour cooking anything. Just fucking throw it in the microwave and I'll eat it, or just, you know, put something that'll take me like 5 minutes to cook up or something.
Yeah.
You know, it's just what it is. A lot of it is on me. Like, you know, that, like, that's just, I consume garbage, and no, that's not healthy. And I've jokingly said to my friends, well, I'm probably gonna be dead before 30, so say goodbye now. Which is not, don't take that seriously. It's just something it's just my,
don't you die on me, Ben.
Says, yeah, no. It's just like, it's, you know, what's funny is that, like, I've had people tell me, you look like you're losing weight. Well, let me get it. It's the summer and I walk everywhere, so it's probably like me just sweating everything off after but I doubt
it does help though.
Much.
Like I said, I sit all day. Like at work, I try to fidget a little bit and try to, you know, keep my blood flowing basically. But like I sit all day, and then I come home, like I cook dinner, which is I like to do because it's actually an active activity, and then I ride the exercise bike for a little bit, and then I sit all night. So like you're at least more active.
Yeah, like I walk everywhere. At work, I'm not in one static position. I'm constantly picking stuff up, pushing stuff down, like I'm constantly moving at work. When I'm at home, though, it's just like I'm really only, like, when I'm at home, the hours I'm home, I'm usually sitting down or lying down, though. Like, I'm just like, I'm tired. Like, it's just my body hurts. I mean, a lot of it has to do with the fact that I played football for years, and a lot of it is that. Yeah. Like, okay, I can't, like, you know, you work an 8-hour day, so all I want to do is come and sit home. But a lot of it is on me of why I don't eat healthy, and I should. It's just like, it's so much easier. Like, I don't have time to eat this, or like you said, a lot of the things that are available somewhat cheaply or that are quote unquote good for you are not really good for you when you take a closer look. It's just marketing talk to get people to buy their products more, which sucks, because I'd rather, at least I know, like when I go when I go to eat McDonald's breakfast, I know that's not bad for me, but at least they're not trying to lie to me about it in front of my face.
Yeah, right. You know what you're getting there, at least.
Yeah. And plus, the McGriddle tastes so good. I'm sorry.
I know.
Remember when that was a big deal? Anyways. But, yeah, so don't eat like shit. Start young. And a lot of it, and like Zero's right, diets are bullshit. A lot of it comes down to self-discipline, and just moderation. Nobody says you can't. Like to me, I think it's so, and I hear this all the time because Austin, Texas, is one of the most healthiest cities in America, from a recent survey. And like because there's running routes everywhere. Like, and I was one of them for the longest time. Like people will jog downtown all the time, so you see a lot of healthy people everywhere. And me having to interact with people, I hear like, well, you should do this and this, and I'm like, I want to tell them that. I'm like I tell people every time, it's like it's all moderation. If you and I tried this. I tried to quit sodas cold turkey once. It didn't work. I got sick because my body didn't know what the hell to do. So it's all about balance. It's all about knowing what your limit is and knowing, okay, this is what I should be doing. This is what I know my body can handle with less of it. And just start weaning yourself off there to ultimately you don't need it anymore when your body is like, well, okay, this is my substitute now. Never do anything cold turkey. Never do anything cold turkey. That is the dumbest thing you can do, is my opinion. And just moderate. Don't feel guilty about having that pizza once a month. Don't feel guilty about, like especially football season's coming up, having a soda, at your party, a couple of sodas at a party.
Cracking open a cold one
don't feel
with the
guilty
boys.
about that. Exactly. Don't feel bad about that.
Because that's what kills it, the guilt. You're like, oh, well, I already screwed it up. Well, I guess I could do more. And then you're done.
Exactly. Understand your limit. Understand it's okay to break that limit every once in a while, but don't go overboard. Me, I don't do those limits, so I drink whatever the fuck I want. Don't do that, but like, understand that you don't have to punish yourself for this. And I feel like a lot of people confuse healthy with being fit. Because like you can still be somewhat big and be healthy.
Oh yeah, it's body type.
You can. Exactly. Like, I mean, forgive me, professional wrestlers are big, but they're healthy. I mean, besides the back injuries and knee injuries and the concussions, but like football players, same thing. They're healthy. They're big, but so you don't have to be like this 6-pack model looking dude or woman. You could be somewhat plus size and still be a healthy person.
Yeah.
So that's all I really have to say about it. Don't be like me. Don't eat like shit. I'm going to continue eating like shit because that's what I know. I try to be better, but then I know myself because I'm a self-destructive asshole. So there's that.
If you know yourself, then you know you can change. But that's beside the point.
Yeah.
I'm not wanting to be preachy. I'm just putting the information out there for people that want it. But yeah, like, again, I'm not trying to like toot my own horn or anything because I really don't like my body right now. But like
toot.
people have said like, oh, you don't seem fat or anything, and it's like I'm 5'6", so I'm a pretty short dude. Like ideal weight for my like height and age and everything is like 140. I'm not that. So like, yeah, I'm not like super big or anything, but like there's a difference. Like it's like you said, it's all about your body type. If you're 6'5" and like stocky, you could probably be 250 pounds and no one would know. I can't do that. So I have to be a lot more careful about, what I eat and things like that. So that's why I'm making those changes because, like I said, I've felt a lot better just in these past few weeks of making small changes. Because it's kind of funny. Like the first thing I did was like 2 or 3 years ago, give up soda, like you mentioned. I didn't do it cold turkey. I did a little bit. Like I didn't stop myself from getting soda, but like I didn't keep it in the house or anything, and like I didn't order it at restaurants. So it was kind of one of those things where like I'd go to Taco Bell and I'd still get the Baja Blast because they just go together. But like I wouldn't buy sodas to keep in the house or anything like that. Or like if someone like if all they had in their fridge was soda, sure, I'd take one, but I'd take one. As a kid, I literally like I had a bedroom in the basement, and we had a mini fridge down there that was just full of, at the time, various Mountain Dew flavors and Pepsi Blue. And I would empty that thing in like a week during the summer. So like basically soda was running through my veins. Now I haven't had any in over 2 years. But like, it's funny because for a while, like I said, I was running around all over the place, like with my work and everything. And so I was drinking a bunch of, like, I would have coffee in the morning, and then throughout the day, I would drink, like, 2 or 3 energy drinks, like Monster, Rockstar, whatever was the cheapest at the store. And so I was like, I haven't had any soda. That's soda. Like, come on, that's soda. But to me, it was different. So, like, I kept saying, yeah, I haven't had any soda, but I still do energy drinks. Like, modifying things like that is the problem. You can say, like, oh, I eat at Taco Bell, but I only get things off the Fresco menu. You're still eating Taco Bell. There's not that much difference. So it's things like that, like I said, don't feel guilty about the things you do. Like, if you do something, do it. But, like, making excuses for why you do it is just basically saying, I don't really want to commit to this. But I'm going to say I am.
Well, I mean, I'm just going to be, who I am and just eat what I want to eat.
Right, and that's fine. Like, you've accepted that. Well, it might not be fine in a few years, but right now, it's fine, because that's who you are. That's, what you've accepted in your life. I accepted that for a while, too. I tried to give up Taco Bell a few years ago, and I went, like, maybe 2 months without it. And then I tried it again, and it was literally, like, the floodgates opened, and I went probably, like, 3 times in 1 week.
See, that's bad.
Yeah. And for a while, like, we were getting pizza probably once a week, maybe once every 2 weeks. Pizza Hut, specifically. And we'd go to the store and load up on, like, frozen pizzas and, like, chicken nuggets and whatever else. Like, a lot of frozen stuff that was easy to throw in. So all of our meals, after sitting in a desk all day, was coming home, eating this, like, heavily processed food with, like, a bunch of condiments and stuff on it. Garbage. And what's funny is, kind of as my final point here, because I know we've talked about this for a long time, people say that, like, eating healthy is expensive, and it is. Like, just per food, you're paying more because it's real. A lot of that comes down to the farmers, like, the cost of actually, like, keeping farmers working these days, because it's not the same business it used to be. But yeah, there's a whole thing behind that on the business side I don't really want to get into right now. But it is getting more and more expensive to keep healthy, like, good organic food, because these farms just don't work the same way. They keep all their animals in disgusting pens, where they, like, gorge on the same crap that we're going to be taking in our bodies by eating that. All that stuff. So to actually get good stuff, you have to pay at a premium. But when you eat healthier food, you eat less of it. Like, that's kind of my final thing here. Is, like, you can make the same, like, if you spent, let's say, $30 at McDonald's, which, why? You're going to get, a really, like, a lot of food for that money. But you're still going to be hungry and, like, feel gross for a while. Probably diarrhea all that out, and then feel hungry within, like, 3 or 4 hours. You could get $30 worth of healthy food, like, good meat, a few veggies to throw in there with it, make, like, a really nice meal, and be good for, like, the day. My kind of go-to, like, breakfast basically has been a banana, which has its own share of issues as far as the natural sugars in there, but again, moderation, it's fine. A banana and like a kind of a coffee mix that's, like, regular coffee, like black coffee, grass-fed butter and coconut oil, blended in, like, they call it an immersion blender, but I just use the magic bullet. Mix all that up, it kind of creates, like, a foamy, like, latte consistency, and it's actually, like, really creamy, a little sweet, and it's all that kind of, good, like, healthy fat that you're taking in just through your coffee. Like, some people drink that just as their breakfast without anything else on the side. But the point is, like, before I was eating, like, cereal or Pop-Tarts or something in the morning, and that sugar rush would end at, like, 9:30 or 10, and I'd be starving. So I'd have some kind of snack, like a protein bar or something with me. So I'd eat that, and it would get me to about noon. I have lunch at 12:30. So I'd just kind of be, like, sitting there, like, antsy, like, oh, I'm hungry, I gotta eat. And then, I'd have my lunch, which, like I said, is also garbage. So with this, like, I keep some peanuts, just like some basic peanuts in my desk, just in case, a quick protein boost in the morning. But I can easily like go, the entire morning, like not even noticing. Like today, it was like 11:30 or something, and I was like, I haven't had any peanuts this morning. And so I like ate a few just because, like I said, it's kind of nice to have that protein boost, but I didn't need to. Like hadn't thought about food yet. And that's a typical morning. So it's like you factor in, a cup of coffee with like kind of expensive butter and a thing of coconut oil, which isn't that expensive with how long it lasts. And this is just one example, but, factor that in with like, the cost of regularly getting Pop-Tarts, because I would eat like 2 a morning, the package of them, there's like 6 in a package, 2 Pop-Tarts and then a protein bar. And then, like whatever I'd have to spend on my lunch. That's if I didn't eat in the cafeteria. Like, the costs even out there over time. Because you're paying less to have to eat more, if that makes sense. So there's something to consider. The upfront cost isn't necessarily the actual cost over time, because the food lasts longer. So that's my final little thing there. But now that I'm done boring people, let's move on to the news. Okay, so the first weird thing I found, like I said, this is a slow news week, so bear with us. Ralph Macchio is set to star in a Karate Kid sequel series airing on YouTube Red in 2018. So much about this sounds pathetic.
I think honestly for me the biggest thing is the fact that it's on YouTube Red.
Yeah.
Like, I wouldn't fault Ralph Macchio for doing another Karate Kid movie. I mean, the movie's over 30 years old, by the way.
This is a TV series.
It's one of the greatest. I know. But, like, I'm referring to the original Karate Kid as itself. It's, like, one of the greatest movies of the 80s. It's a cult classic. It's not a cult classic. It's a classic. I just think if it was, I think I'd be more excited if it was on Netflix or even Hulu or Amazon.
Yeah.
But the fact that it's on YouTube Red, it's just like,
Well, the problem is, like, YouTube Red has some legit good stuff. Nothing I've watched because I don't have YouTube Red. But I've seen the trailers and, like, heard some stuff about these things. And, like, they have some legit stuff on their repertoire. But people don't take them seriously yet. So something like this just doesn't help that mentality. Because the Karate Kid is great. Again, like you said.
It seems like a joke.
Yeah, the idea of like a follow-up sequel still starring the original 2 kids, because it also has William Zabka, like grown up, and I think it says something like they have 30 years after the events of the 1984 karate tournament, a down-and-out Johnny Lawrence seeks redemption by reopening the famous Cobra Kai karate dojo, reigniting his rivalry with a now successful Danny LaRusso, who has been struggling to maintain balance in his life without the guidance of his mentor, Mr. Miyagi.
That sounds sad and depressing.
Right? The show is about 2 men addressing past demons and present frustrations the only way they know how, through karate. So it's basically just like they probably have like dojos like across the street from each other, and they're just staring at each other like, yeah, see? I'm gonna get you, see? On YouTube.
This sounds like Midlife Crisis, the series.
Yep.
I don't want to watch this.
So, again, like you said, if this was, like, through a more kind of prestigious venue, it might be okay. Like, people have even been watching Fuller House on Netflix just because it's on Netflix.
To critical acclaim, too.
Who really, like, wanted a Full House sequel?
Nobody.
But they're watching it because Netflix has a good reputation. Mm-hmm. YouTube Red getting a Karate Kid sequel, again, another well-loved thing, a follow-up, just seems like a joke because of the reputation of the platform. And the fact that I don't think anyone really remembers Karate Kid that much.
No, they just remember Daniel-san. I know that because my little brother is named Daniel, so we would call him Daniel-san for years. And Sweep the Leg. That's it.
Yeah. I remember the sequel with Hilary Swank more.
I've never seen that one.
Because it was 1994, so it was more my time.
Yeah, I've never seen that one start to finish. I did.
It was good.
Yeah. I believe it. Just never saw it. I did like the reboot, the kind of reboot, the one they did with not Will Smith. Yeah, with Jaden Smith. Yeah, I did like
Yeah.
that one a lot with Jackie Chan. I like that one a lot.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. It's like it's weird. I mean, I'm not saying they should have done a sequel series to the reboot, but it's weird. Like we've had a reboot since then, but this is a sequel of the original show or movie. But again, being on YouTube, like that's very much a young person's platform. Like they have a show coming out about esports. And then they're also going to have a sequel series to a 30-year-old movie franchise that these kids probably don't even know because they just know the reboot.
That's so scary.
It seems a little out of touch.
Yeah, it doesn't seem it's the right audience for it. Again, if
No.
this is on Hulu, Netflix, Amazon, it'd be perfect because you have a more people who have access to those platforms are probably going to know Karate Kid, and they grew up watching the Karate Kid, and they know the moments, the crane. Even the premise, even then when I read the description, it's just like, this just sounds sad.
Yeah.
I don't want to watch this. Even if it wasn't anything else, I don't think I want to watch this.
It's a pathetic nostalgia grab.
Yeah. Just give me a new Karate Kid, and they did a couple years ago, and that was fine. Just give me another one of those, and I'll take it.
But without Jaden Smith, because he's a tool.
Yeah, wax on.
Jackie Chan can still be in it. That was pretty cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, I feel like they basically just did this because YouTube Red actually like picked it up. Because it says like, we are thrilled that YouTube Red felt the same thing the minute they heard the pitch and then stepped up with the series commitment. So it sounds like they were just taking it to all the different networks, and YouTube was like, sure, why not?
They got nothing to lose.
Right.
But let's move on.
But yeah, speaking of Netflix, kind of moving on to a better topic here. Netflix has acquired Mark Millar's Complete Comics publishing house. Well, I say complete, and that it's the ones that haven't been already made. So it doesn't include Kingsman or Kick-Ass. It's unclear if it includes Wanted. I don't see that anywhere here.
It wouldn't, because Wanted was made before the imprint. Like, it's part of his imprint now, but Wanted itself as a comic book was made before, because originally his books were done under a Marvel imprint called Icon, and then when I guess the deal came up, he created Millar World. So I don't think anything with that made is it a film or was made before Millar World was a thing would be considered part of this deal, unless like he has the movie rights back. He might have the movie rights back to Wanted, and they could do actual.
I love if they made a series out of Wanted.
Yeah, well, I mean, Wanted the comic book is so different from the movie. Like it's about supervillains.
Yeah, and so I think that would be like a huge property for them to use on Netflix, because it's already somewhat known. Like, it's probably the most known aside from Kingsman or Kick-Ass.
Yeah.
And it seems like it would fit the Netflix like style of show.
Yeah.
So I'd really like to see that. But he does have a lot of stuff.
Oh yeah,
and
Mark. Yeah.
Like Chrononauts, I think would be a really cool one. I've heard a little bit about that.
It's really good.
But it sounds awesome.
It's a short, like four issue series with some gorgeous art about time travel shenanigans. It's
but
great.
that concept could be expanded way past 4 issues.
Oh, definitely. They're doing a sequel. Just don't like the artist is busy doing other projects.
Really?
Interesting enough that I think about a year ago or 2 years ago that Sony had announced they were making a movie with Chrononauts. So who knows how that's going to factor into this? Maybe that deal fell out and they just didn't talk about it.
I mean, Sony's been quietly dropping things for a while now.
I wouldn't be surprised, but I just find that interesting. But like, there's so like because I don't know how many of Mark Millar's properties you've read of his. Because I think out of the two of us, I've read a lot.
I don't think I read any of them.
Okay.
I just know about them.
Yeah, I would say having read the most, Jupiter Legacy, because a lot of the things he does are superhero stuff or based on science fiction stuff. The one I would definitely want to see is a book that just finished recently, or technically it's in production, is Jupiter's Legacy, which is sort of about golden aged superheroes and their offspring, and and the impact of legacy and what does it mean to be kind of what we were talking about earlier about blending the idea of a hero and a villain and switching roles and everything like that, kind of like the time we were talking about earlier. Chrononauts is fun. There's another book called Starlight, which is a sort of a take on Flash Gordon, where instead of it's like the young, like it's sort of like, instead of you get the typical like Flash Gordon like young character, he's old and fat, and in fact when you meet the story, he's depressed because like his wife is dead and nobody believes he's had these adventures, and he gets pulled away for one last grand adventure. And that's only a 6-issue miniseries. There's another series he did called Superior, which is basically Shazam, but really interesting and really well done in the way only Millar can. So he has a lot. Like, I wasn't a big fan of his in like the early 2000s. We sort of broke into the scene because he was basically known as the violent guy, like the over the top guy. And there's one series in here that I don't know if the website's mentioned it, but I can't remember exactly what it's called, but it's basically a Batman Punisher story where like the guy's in all white and it's just grossly violent. I can't remember what it was called though, because I kind of didn't like it. But I'm looking forward to this because I haven't read all the stuff he's done, but the stuff I've read has been tip-top quality. And if Netflix can bring these either in live action or animation, because that's also an option too, it should be cool. Yeah. It should be great.
I think the coolest thing about this is, I mean, obviously it's just cool that like they've acquired such a good, repertoire of stuff from an amazing creator, but this is only the third like entire catalog buyout, because this isn't a license or anything. Like Netflix actually bought all of these. Acquisition, that's what it's called. I should know that, but I'm blanking. It's hot. And this is actually the third time this has happened, which, the other two are Warner Brothers buying DC and Disney buying Marvel. So the fact that the third one is Millar World, not like, Image or anything like Dark Horse or anything like that, like companies buying those well-known names. It's like literally they just bought Mark Millar's library.
Pretty much, yeah. And
like one man's works is the third thing to get bought behind DC and Marvel.
Yeah.
It's kind of awesome.
Yeah, and they're all different. I mean, some of them are the same, like superheroes, but like a lot of them are different takes on superheroes or different genres altogether. He like in the case of two of them, Reborn, which is a fantasy story, yet also there's another in Starlight. There two. One's a fantasy one. Oh, Nemesis. That's the book I'm talking about. That's the one that's the super ultra violent Batman story. But yeah, like he's one of the better comic writers in the past 15 years, and I'm eagerly looking forward to seeing some of these projects come to Netflix in some fashion.
Yeah, and there's definitely a few that could probably be made pretty quickly. But this is interesting after we talked last week about how, Netflix might not be doing well in 10 or 20 years, which I still don't think is true. The fact that they're actually acquiring properties now means that like they don't have the licensing fees or whatever over time. Sure, this is probably a good chunk of money up front, but now they own these things. So they can do whatever they want with them. Like, yeah, there's money that goes into production.
The Netflix cinematic universe.
Yeah. There's money that goes into production, but like licensing is expensive over time. That's why, so much stuff drops off Netflix and gets added on all the time. There's a news story I didn't actually put on here that I probably should have, that, they're losing the Disney deal that they literally just closed on like 2014 or something like that.
Yeah, it was only very recently. Like, yeah. No, 2015 probably.
Yeah, I think it was. But Disney wants to create their own streaming service because that's what everyone's doing now. So they're ditching the deal they already had with Netflix. So like, again, that's kind of an example of like, licensing is expensive. So Disney would rather have their own streaming service than put all their stuff on Netflix. But Netflix paid really good money to be the exclusive streaming for like a lot of those Disney movies and stuff, right? Pretty much as soon as they came out of theaters. And
it's not like it's going away immediately. You still have, like a year to watch anything Disney on. So
it's gonna be sometime next year, I think that happens.
Yeah. So if you haven't watched by then, well, then it's your own fault.
Yeah, exactly. But that's kind of the point. Is like the more that they own and can actually make in-house, the less that they're spending on all the licensing and stuff like that. So I think this is a really good sign for the future.
Mm-hmm. I'm looking forward to Chrononauts the most because it was the most fun. That and Reborn, because Reborn's a heart-wrenching story. By the way, Mark Millar knows when to punch you in the gut emotionally when you least expect it. He knows when to tug in those emotions. So, if I'm gonna give my personal recommendation before we move on, Chrononauts, Starlight, and gotta look through this list. Jupiter's Legacy. If you want to read a Mark Millar book that I think exemplifies his skill as a writer, those 3 series. And they're all amazing. And the thing is, he always gets the best artists to work with him. Top tier, best in the business. Because he probably pays really well, too, because of all the money he's made.
Oh, yeah.
So go check those out. That's your homework.
I was going to transition from Disney, but you kept talking. So, on the topic of Disney, there's been a little bit of a tease of a possible Guardians of the Galaxy spinoff, and it would be about the Ravagers, which, I mean, that's fine, I guess. But basically, it would be a standalone movie for the team that we saw at the end of the last movie, which was like the original 1960s Guardians lineup.
Yeah.
But, yeah, that's like Stallone and his team. Which I thought that's what Guardians 3 was going to be about, which is like those 2 teams teaming up to take on like Adam Warlock or something like that. But if they're possibly already talking about a spinoff, like, you know, something might be in place already, then I don't know if they'd use those characters in the actual next movie, because they wouldn't want to waste that story. But I personally don't think we need that. I don't think they're popular enough to warrant their own thing, especially with like that cast is like a great, you know, lineup of people, but they're not franchise holders. I mean, most of them are probably too old to do a lot of the action scenes. I don't mean that to sound mean, but they specifically went with an older group of people because like they're supposed to be the original lineup. Like that's the idea. So I feel like it wouldn't have the same like intensity that the Guardians movies have had. Plus, I don't really want to hear Stallone mumble through an entire movie, because I've never really sat down and watched a Stallone movie.
You should just watch Rocky. That's his best performance. And Rocky
I heard
Balboa.
Creed,
yes, but in terms of where, like, yeah, Creed's really good. I keep forgetting about Creed, but like in terms of like a Rocky movie, 1, 2's debatable, and Balboa.
Fair enough.
The other ones are just like him sort of like not being what Rocky is, but like those are his best performances as an actor, where like he's not a musclehead. That's what I hate about people say about they're not, you're right, they're not franchise holders, but this is the Marvel machine we're talking about, so they don't need to be. Like, it could just be a 1 spin-off movie and then that's it. Like, it doesn't.
I'm saying like either way, I'd rather see them in Guardians 3 first, so that we can understand more of who they are, because they were literally just an in tag of like, what is this? Who are these people? Why are they on screen right now? It seems so random, aside from Stallone, who had already been established.
Yeah.
So if you don't know who they are, it's like, oh, okay.
Yeah, it's an obscure sort of wink to Guardians of the Galaxy fans from the 1960s.
Right, which, how many of those are there?
Not many.
But, like, if they had them in Guardians 3 as, like, actual supporting or even main characters, then they could be established as their characters. People could actually enjoy who they are without, you know, like, having their own thing. But, like, Guardians 3 isn't happening until, like, at least 2020 or something like that, because they're going to be in the Infinity War movies first. So by that time, like, will all of these actors really still want to do their own solo movie after all of that and Guardians 3 and then possibly a spinoff? I doubt it. So, I don't know. It seems weird to me, but especially calling it the Ravagers. That seems to be what Gunn was kind of implying by saying it would be the Ravagers. Because, like, they're not. They'd be the original Guardians of the Galaxy team. The Ravagers are a totally different group that's already been well established, so I feel like people would go into that movie not knowing what they're getting. But whatever, it's all just weird stuff right now, but it just seemed like
that's what we said about Guardians of the Galaxy the first time, but we'll see. We'll see if it even happens. It may not happen. It may not even happen at this point.
True. And staying on the Marvel bus, last week we got our first look at Domino, and this week we got our first look at Cable. And boy, he looks good. Cable. Yeah, premium Cable. I can't make it any bigger, but
that's what she said.
Yeah, he looks like spot on. Like, I don't quite know what this stuff on his neck is. It's a little terrifying.
That is what made me the happy most. That is the techno-organic virus. I don't know how they're going to handle it in the movie, but basically, if you don't know, Cable is Nathan Summers, a.k.a. the son of Jean Grey, and Scott Summers, a.k.a. Cyclops and Jean Grey. And when he was a baby... Actually, no, his mother's Madeline Pryor, not Jean Grey.
Yeah, she was a clone.
Yeah, that's right. I think it was Mr. Sinister or somebody injected him with the techno-organic virus, and it basically consumes half of his face. And basically, he has telekinetic powers, and he's basically constantly holding back the techno-organic virus from eating his entire body. So that's what that is.
Cool. All right. Yeah, this dude's loaded up. He's jacked. He's got the eye. Like... He looks great. I don't know what that teddy bear is, but
it's probably like a Deadpool thing.
Probably. He's got the mechanical arm, giant gun. Like, anyone that might have been mad about Domino was probably totally like happy about this now, because she's as far away from her comic book as character as she could be. He's about as close as he could be.
Yeah, like even the loads of pouches,
yeah.
The unnecessary loads of pouches. Cable's one of my favorite characters, and I'm not gonna lie to you. When I woke up Monday morning and I saw this, I nearly cried. I nearly cried because like this is just perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Also, Rob Liefeld retweeted me on Twitter, so that was awesome.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, I was like, and I met Rob Liefeld. Rob Liefeld might get shit for his art. I like his art. But, like, the dude is seriously one of the nicest people in comics. Like, that amount of hate he gets is ridiculous. He just loves comic books. And to see, like...
I mean, he draws what he knows. Like, it all looks pretty similar, but it's his style. Whatever. Everyone has their own style.
And people forget that he was hugely popular to the point where he could buy his own jet, and he was a model for Levi's in the early 90s, so he was popular.
Nobody makes fun of Scotty Young, or whatever his name is, for drawing all his characters the same way. Right,
but this is because of it's weird. It's a double standard. Rob Liefeld gets a lot of unneeded hate by the internet, but this and they've shown other pictures of him, like the close up. The first one I saw was the close up with him going, shh.
Yeah, and you can really see like the eye, the face stuff there.
Mm-hmm. Like I can't wait.
I was right about the eye scar over his eyebrow. Yeah. Like the reason they had his eyebrow shaved, but that looks really cool when it's not just his shaved eyebrow.
Yeah. I hope he gets more ridiculously bigger guns in the movie, though. Because that's a ridiculously big gun he has, but I'm pretty sure they're going to play up the idea of Cable having ridiculously big guns throughout the movie.
I mean, he's got some pretty big guns, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, there was a picture of him on set with, like, him holding up a Deadpool little kid dressed up as Deadpool. Dude looks jacked. Like, yeah. I mean, he was, like, we saw him at San Diego Comic-Con. I mean, we weren't there, but pictures of him, sure, it's like, dude's ripped.
Mm-hmm.
Like somebody pointed out, like he's been training, like him working on the Goonies. He's been training this since that day. That's what he's been working towards.
Oh, it's so weird to think that was the kid from the Goonies,
right? I don't even think about it's the same guy.
I know. Because like the first time I heard about him was in W, like that that George W. Bush biopic or whatever.
Yeah.
And then like Jonah Hex and like the first time I actually saw him in a movie, because I didn't watch any of that garbage, was Men in Black 3. And I was like, wow, he does a really good, like, young Tommy Lee Jones impression. Because that movie was flawed, but, like, he was amazing in it. And so, like, I never knew he was, like, a child star or anything, so I didn't know about him until he was probably, like, in his 30s at that point.
Although he looked like an old man. He so constantly looks like he's an old man.
He's just got that grump face. He's going to be a Clint Eastwood someday.
Yeah, the first time I saw him like for a movie, like an actual movie, was it was like an LA cop movie where like the cops took the law into their own hands against Mickey Cohen. Can't remember exactly what it was called, but like, he was one of the cops in there. I was like, this dude's badass. I need a trailer for this. I need a trailer.
Yeah,
I need a trailer. I'm so this isn't Deadpool 2. This is basically X-Force Zero, basically at this point.
Mm-hmm.
With the like
that's
just,
the plan.
Just put in I mean, just put in one more X-Force character, and I'm gonna be happy because I love X-Force.
Oh, I guarantee they're going to. There'll be some kind of in-tag or something.
Yeah, give me Wolfsbane. Give me somebody. But he
Wolfsbane's a New Mutants.
New Mutants were original. I mean, in the comic books, that was the wrong choice. But New Mutants became members of X-Force. Like they became
right. I'm just saying they're probably not going to have crossover there.
Probably not. There's plenty of other characters they can choose from. But I want to see some Deadpool Cable shenanigans because you can tell Cable's going to be the straight man for Deadpool the entire movie.
But he's going to be really funny about it.
Yes.
Because Josh Brolin has great dry comedic timing.
Oh, he's fantastic.
Yeah. Man, I'm excited. I bet we get a trailer by Christmas.
I would expect somewhat sooner. Maybe like a teaser trailer, like in.
Well, it doesn't come out until I think June
or
June
July
of next year. Because the first one was Valentine's, so we got a lot of stuff ramping up around Christmas time. I would see a first trailer by Christmas time, and then ramping up of advertisements and stuff around Valentine's Day.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, moving on. I don't have a cool transition. I guess technically this is still Disney. The new Ducktales show, which looks fantastic and apparently is out now. I need to check the premiere.
It's already out?
Going to be getting there was a review for the first episode.
Wow.
I don't know. I have Disney XD on Sling. I'll have to see if it's on demand. But yeah, apparently the new DuckTales is getting a Darkwing Duck crossover, is what I was trying to get out. And this is awesome to me because I thought DuckTales was okay back in the day. I only like the new one because the cast is fantastic. And I love the art style. But Darkwing Duck was my jam back in the day. I watched that show every day at my grandma's house. Because it was one of the few channels she got. But I'd make her flip over from her soaps and we'd watch Darkwing Duck. And then I'd go back to playing with my toys and she'd turn on another soap or whatever. But yeah, I love that show. And so, the fact that we're getting a Darkwing Duck resurgence also is pretty great. And I hope that means it's going to be getting a spin-off show, a new show, spun off from this one.
Never cared about Darkwing Duck as a child.
I mean, that's fine.
Neither,
as I say every week, you're entitled to your terrible opinion.
I mean, I don't have an opinion on it. I just didn't watch it. It was, I was more of a Hanna-Barbera kid. That was what was on in my house. Gross. I had I knew of it. I know the DuckTales theme and I know the Darkwing Duck theme, but it's my older brother I think was more of a Darkwing Duck kid, but for me it was Hanna-Barbera all day. That's all I cared about. Anything else was garbage. Not that I think Darkwing Duck back then was garbage, because again I didn't see it, but I'm glad fans are happy.
He was basically a comedic Duck Batman.
No, I know what he is. I know what
great.
he is. It's just
and he had a giant floppy hat.
I never
got in his way somehow.
I never saw it as
a cool
kid.
hook.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Whatever.
He looks cool, but I never saw it as a kid, so I don't have any connection towards it.
Whatever.
It's cool that he's in
Moving on. You ruined my buzz.
I'm not even hating on him. I'm just saying I didn't see it.
In non-Disney or Marvel or, everything else they own news, it's been officially confirmed, I guess, that Daniel Craig will be returning as 007 in the next James Bond movie. Apparently, the Showtime CEO was talking about an upcoming show that he's supposed to be working on called Purity, and said that the show has been delayed because he has to do Bond first. This all sounds like a lot of strong-arming. He had already lined up a thing to do, but they're like, no, you gotta be Bond. He's like, but... no, you gotta be Bond. Okay. He looked dead-eyed in the last one. Why did they bring him back? But, I don't know. I'm sure they gave him a lot of money. So, there's that. But I like Daniel Craig. I just don't really like him as Bond. That's the problem. Because, Pierce Brosnan was kind of the opposite. Pierce Brosnan's a good actor, don't get me wrong. But I thought his Bond was the best Bond, for one. Don't fight me.
Don't at me?
Yeah, don't at me. Don't at me, bro. But, I also thought, his best work was Bond. Like he just like he fit that character so well. Daniel Craig is like, he seems depressed in the role. It's not fun. That's why I like Kingsman so much now, because like Kingsman's what I want Bond to be. So yeah, I would just want to see them kind of do another soft reboot for Bond, because every time they bring in a new actor, it's like a new soft reboot. Like, you know, the Pierce Brosnan era was like the gadget heavy, like kind of campy era, which I loved, and those games were the best because of all the gadgets and stuff. And then they brought Daniel Craig in, and I know I'm not talking about the ones before that because I've only seen a few of them, and I don't really have like the means to talk at length on them because it was a long time ago. But Sean Connery was also amazing, by the way. Just, I prefer modern Bond stuff more, so I like Brosnan. But yeah, they brought Daniel Craig in, and like Casino Royale was a pretty solid movie. Like the action in it was really good. It was well shot. The character was okay, but like it was mostly just kind of, it was refreshing because it was different. But then every other Bond that came after it was just kind of like, okay, this feels exactly like what came before. His character is boring. I'm not interested in this ongoing, like, serialized plot that Bond's never really done before. Like, it feels like it needs to start over with someone new that can be fun again.
This is another thing where I didn't watch. Like, I don't really have an affinity for James Bond. I've only seen a couple of the Pierce Brosnan movies. I've never seen one from start to finish. I've never seen any James Bond from start to finish, but I like, just through cultural zeitgeist, I know things about it. I still, you know what would make me see the next James Bond movie? Not Daniel Craig. Unlike you, I love Daniel Craig as an actor. I think he's great. I can't.
Logan Lucky, see it.
Huh?
Logan Lucky, see it. It comes out in like a week or two.
Okay, I'll keep that in mind. But like, it's not, even him couldn't get me to see Bond. You know what will get me to see Bond though, and the only person who I think who should be the next James Bond, even though he's kind of old, but I don't care. I want Idris Elba to be Bond already.
Yeah, everyone wants Idris Elba to be Bond.
Like, he should be. Like, the dude, like, and he could be he can play serious Bond if they want to continue with serious Bond, but I guarantee you the dude could play fun Bond as well, and just be great. That's all I really have. I'm really surprised they're doing more Daniel Craig.
Camera.
Okay. Well, I had a comment about the whole Bond and Idris Elba. Apparently, like, the guy, or Roger Moore, was like, he can't be James Bond because he's not English enough. Except, Pierce Brosnan is Irish.
Uh-huh.
Daniel Craig is...
Welsh?
Welsh? Yeah.
He's Welsh.
Sean Connery
Was Scottish.
And he was the first.
But Idris Elba was born in London, which is as English as you can get.
Yeah. Well, you know, people have to come up with some excuse that doesn't make them sound racist.
Yep. It'll be like the Doctor Who thing where they didn't accept Jodie Whittaker as the Doctor Who. They'll find some way to not accept Idris Elba as Bond. Bye, Brooke.
Special guest star. We did have a guest this week. But yeah, no, you're right. Like, people always find some way to like make an excuse of why something shouldn't happen when they really just like personally don't like it. But I'll admit, Idris Elba would be a great Bond, but I don't want him to be Bond just because I think he could do better. Like, if they could do something else like Kingsman, you know, create their own series where he leads, and it's like, it's fun. It's like, it's better than Bond. Like, I feel like the Bond series has kind of gone downhill recently, and it's just not the hit it used to be. Like, sure, it's still an event whenever they're getting close to it happening, and it's kind of like Doctor Who, where anytime there's like chatter of a new actor coming in, it makes all the news, and it's like, oh, who's gonna be the next Bond? But then, like, when there's a string of bad ones, people just like, oh, here's the next one, maybe it'll be better. And it's like, they're getting to 25. Like, they really need to go out strong. Or I say go out as like, it's a you know, milestone. Like, they want to make sure it's good. And I felt like this would have been a good chance to like bring in someone new, even if it's like a one-off. Just like, here's the 25th movie. It's a celebration of, you know, the past movies. Like, here's a new actor. And then, like, you know, 26 on can be someone completely new. I don't know. Something like that. I'm just saying, like, they need to mix it up somehow. It is having it be, like, the final Daniel Craig Bond just seems, like, kind of lame for, like, a milestone movie. And so, like, I'd rather see Idris Elba do something better. Like, not be shoehorned into Kingsman or something like that, but, like...
But you would love it if you were shoehorned into Kingsman somehow.
That would be pretty great. But, like I said, he needs to be the lead of something.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying just, like, Black Bond or something like that.
Yeah.
But, a similar type of thing, but his own take on it.
I mean, it wasn't his own thing, but he was the lead in the Dark Tower movie that just came out, so.
Yeah, but that wasn't good, so.
No, but I mean, he was the lead.
Plus, he had to share it with Matthew McConaughey.
Yeah, but okay, don't turn this into dissing Matthew McConaughey.
I'm not. I'm just saying, like, it wasn't his movie. Like, it wasn't named after him or anything. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's not his own thing. Yeah, although he was great in Pacific Rim. He was great in Pacific Rim.
Oh, I loved him in Pacific Rim. But yeah, so that's my whole thing. Is like I don't want to see Daniel Craig coming back because he doesn't want to, obviously. But I want to see someone new that like can do something different with the series. I feel like Idris Elba would come in and like he would be great, but he would continue this trend of what they've been doing lately. I want it to kind of go back to like the fun, weird stuff. Like the over-the-top missions and yeah.
They should cast an American actor. That'll piss everybody off.
Oh, yeah. Then it...
Fuck it. I'm James Bond.
Better get back into football shape.
Hey, man. Hollywood would pay me to look like a... No, that'll be the gimmick. I'm all fat and out of shape and Mexican. Like, he's just 007. Name's Iggy. I mean, Bond. Like, I would try to do that in the takes. But yeah. I think we said enough about this topic.
Real quick. I picture them doing like, Austin Powers is kind of like a spoof on Bond. They do like a Fat Bastard spinoff where like he's the one they call and he's like trying to run and he's like, I can't do it. Oh, that'd be great.
Speaking of which, we need another Austin Powers movie in our lives. Right? It's been too long.
Screw Bond. Give us another Austin Powers.
Mike Myers, I know you made shitty movies over the recent years, but come on. You got one more good one.
He's not doing much else. He's talked about it for years. Just make it.
Yeah. It stars yourself.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, as a child, I had no idea. It wasn't until like I was like 15. I'm like, wait, what? I'm an idiot.
Wow. And the final story of the night, the new Hellboy reboot has found its main villain in Milla Jovovich. She's going to be playing the acclaimed Blood Queen, which I think is pretty good. She's got to find something to do in this post-Resident Evil world. And she was always a really good, kind of like, quiet but menacing action star. So I think that'll actually be really cool. Also, we didn't talk about it, but recently Ian McShane was cast as Hellboy's adoptive father, Professor Broom, sorry. And I freaking love Ian McShane since American Gods. So far, this cast is actually really coming along. Like, I don't want to like this reboot, but everything that comes out about it sounds actually pretty good. So I guess I'll accept that it's happening. But yeah, that's really all about that. It's just kind of a casting announcement.
I have not seen Milla Jovovich in a movie since Resident Evil Nemesis because I refuse. That's the only thing she's done as far as like big stuff. Is the Resident Evil films, and I refuse to.
She's done a few other things.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. In terms of big profile stuff, she's only done Resident Evil, and I refuse to watch Steaming Hot garbage. So it's like, it'll be nice to see her.
She had that one, like, I'm sure it was some kind of comics adaptation or something. I didn't know what it was, but it was like the one that wasn't Aeon Flux. I can't even remember what it's called right now, but it was like a leading thing for her, and it wasn't good. It was better than Aeon Flux, but it wasn't good.
Bad. I paid money to see that movie.
And I think it was one of those they were trying to turn into a franchise.
Ultraviolet?
No, that's what I'm thinking of. That movie, both of those are bad.
Their second contribution.
Yeah, but it wasn't as bad at least. Like I said, pretty short news week.
Yeah, but I think we had a good discussion overall.
Yeah, we did. And it actually still is going pretty long. So I guess that goes to show. But yeah, I think we'll go ahead and call that a podcast. Where can the folks find you?
You can find me at...
I don't like it saying that. Plug your crap.
Twitter.com/marvelousiggy. And I'm happy to announce that by the time this is released to patrons... Well, no. When does this get released to patrons? Monday?
Friday.
Okay. when it's get released to the general public, the first episode of my Freedom Planet Let's Play will officially be out. The second part should be as well, considering that it gets released on Wednesday to everybody. So look for that. Celebration Sonic Mania. I'm officially releasing because I'm almost done with the game. Look for that. And just go to twitter.com/MarvelZiggy for all updates concerning the self-proclaimed Marvelous One. Also, go to Twitter. Go to Zero's Twitter, which he's about to plug in a second, to tell him to do a watch along with me, because that'll be fun. Let the people know. Let your voices be heard that he wants to watch clowns. Face your fears. Face your fears.
I'm really good at ignoring people. I was bullied for many years.
Face your fears, Zero. The clowns can't hurt you from the screens.
And quick special thanks to our surprise guest star, my fiance, who refused to come on camera because she's fitting her homemade wedding dress and didn't want to be seen. But thank you for the quick moment. And I, of course, am Justin. I am at Zero Score on Twitter, YouTube, all the other places. Check out the Final Fantasy VI story play that I've still been doing. I just put up the opera episode, which any of you that know that game know how fantastic that scene is, and I did my best to do it justice. Apparently it made Ben cry, so there's that.
Makes me cry every week because of how awesomely talented they are.
But also it's just a really cool scene.
Yeah.
I've been told to possibly just like take that part and like release it as its own video. I think that could be kind of fun because like not a lot of people have really like compiled a thing like that, like the whole scene with like voice acting and like the proper music that's supposed to be there and stuff like that, kind of all put together in a cinematic way. So I might be releasing that too, also for people that don't really care about the series but would like to see that by itself. And of course, weekly plug to audition for Final Fantasy IX, please. I'm probably going to be closing auditions in the next few weeks. I don't think I'm going to go all the way to the end of August, because I've been doing some pre-casting and we're pretty good. I would like some more people, but I could manage with what I have now. And I want to get casting done before my capstone class starts in like 2 weeks, because that's going to be madness. So yeah, please get everything in the next week or two. Ideally, talking to you also, Ben. But yeah, that's all I got. So until next time, stay charged.